Let's talk about Thomas Sowell,
Thomas
man.
Sowell's
That guy's amazing. I mean, he is 91. Oh my! And he's still going strong. I mean, he's still speaking out. If you guys don't know who Thomas Sowell is, I could say this right now. Thomas Sowell is one of the greatest minds in America today, if not the greatest. I'm not sure if I could find someone that would be a greater mind as far as critical thinking. I mean, an engineer. How else would you describe Thomas Sowell?
Well, he's excellent at articulating his arguments, both in writing and in speech, and also he's fearless. Like the guy just does not care. The guy,
I love it.
He'll just be on the floor of Congress, just arguing with Joe Biden from 40 years ago.
That'd be amazing. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
It's gonna be like a Lethal Weapon, right? They're just gonna drag Thomas Sowell back out to Congress in the next couple of weeks, and he's just gonna be, I'm getting too old for this.
I'm getting too old for this.
It's you and me, Joe. Yet again.
But he would do it though.
Oh, he'd do it in a minute. Yeah.
Joe's getting too old for it. I mean, my goodness. Thomas Sowell's still on it, and he's in his 90s.
He's still tweeting. He's still tweeting strong.
No, he doesn't tweet.
Oh, he doesn't?
No, that's not run by Thomas Sowell. But whoever runs that account, though, has all of Thomas Sowell's books. This is the account on Twitter, Thomas Sowell. The guy, whoever runs it, does a good job of just posting his money tweets. That they would be, and they're poignant. They work for what's going on with the world, because someone just said it in chat. He objectively views society, or maybe that wasn't exactly what they said, but that's kind of what they. He objectively examines reality. SP Fober says, yeah, exactly. And that's not, yeah. And as you said, he does it in a way that he can articulate his point perfectly. You don't walk away going, what was he talking about? You walk away going, that guy knows what he's talking about.
Well, the magic that makes him who he is, I think, is that he comes from a humble background. Like he was raised by his aunts, I think. Mm-hmm. He's not with his parents. He was in the Bronx way long a time ago, and comes from humble means. Just went to the library a ton. By the way, same thing my grandfather did when the Japanese bombed Indonesia and attacked us. They blew up his middle school, so my grandfather just went to the library and learned.
Awesome.
And my grandfather ended up just running all of Toyota in Indonesia eventually.
Really?
He rose up. Yeah, so
good for him.
Awesome. A pretty famous name. But anyways, yeah, you just need to go to the library. I feel like that's a better education, because you're forced to sit there and contend one-on-one with the subject matter. You're not getting it filtered through a teacher. Teachers definitely have a place, but you got to spend some time just with the great minds.
I guess it feels like we're almost at this point though where teachers are replacing parents. And that's a problem, right? True. Like parenting, I don't have kids, but now that I have a house, I have a wife, we're planning on having children soon. So I have this mind state of I'm going to be a father soon. And, I'm thinking about I'm going to teach my kids everything I know. I'm going to they're going to learn from me. They're not going to have some teacher. And I'm blessed to have a job where, I research a lot all day long, but really I'm live for about 2 hours, or an hour and a half. So it's I could spend a lot of time with the kids. So I'm really excited about that. But people are like, oh yeah, the teachers can teach them everything. And now the teachers are indoctrinating kids. We had teachers now resigning because they're I'm not going to teach this critical race theory. Look at Loudoun County in Virginia,
What's disturbing to me is that was the bridge too far. It took that long before we started getting public resignations. Because, just thinking about it right now, the phrase "shaping children's minds" is some of the most Orwellian doublespeak I've ever heard in my life. It's that's not your job. That's their
right.
That's you're supposed to present them with information, shaping their mind. Yeah. That's that sounds like you're engineering the child. And as an engineer, I think that's terrible, because you're supposed to let people be innocent. You're supposed to let people find out who they are.
You're supposed to engineer products, not humans.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. That's dude. Engineering humans is some Brave New World stuff right there.
I agree.
It's too much power. It's too much power. We're not meant for that, right? Let nature take its course there. So,
yep, exactly.
Good news though. The valedictorian from my university, she was homeschooled, 100%.
Nice.
Yeah. So shout out to Monica. Hey, Monica.
All right. Right on. Hey, how you doing, Monica? Good to see you, meet you. Congratulations.
She's awesome. So she was like marathon runner and just all-star. She was a naval ROTC till she got injured. Top of her class, aerospace engineering, valedictorian, nailed it, kicked butt. She was failing public school. She was failing in public school, and they had to pull her out at like second grade or something really early.
Because public schools are the worst.
I tried to get out. My parents wouldn't.
I mean, I'm not Buddhist, but there was in Buddhism, they say that there should be how many people on the planet right now? 7 point something billion, almost 8 billion people. There should be that many religions because everyone is so different. So that's like that. You think about like everyone being different. That's thinking I'm an adult, you're an adult, like we're adults. So like you think about being adults, but I became myself over time. So like a child, if we have a class of 30 kids, they're all so different. They're all going to need different things. You know, that some people need to run around more. Some people need to focus on something. Some people need to get their hands dirty. You know, people learn in different fashions. And man, the whole schooling,
it's a one-size-fits-all solution. And actually, when I was so I used to run I didn't tell you about this, but I used to run a nonprofit in Baltimore to teach children robotics.
Okay.
Another subject for another time. Baltimore is a heck of a city. It's a heck of a city.
I've been there.
Oh yeah, it's
a couple times, both when it was burning and when it was not burning.
It does that. Well, I'm glad you got in when it wasn't burning.
Yeah.
No, it's the one size fits all thing. Like, it's terrible. And if you want to see how much a system loves you, see what they feed you, the actual food. So if you've ever seen cafeteria food, you just go in there, eat a meal there, and that's exactly what they think of your kids, in my opinion. They would never. Yeah. So, and that's actually kind of a good segue over towards making your own food, because
I actually want to stay on Trump. I feel we've kind of like set the stage to talk about like the political environment a little bit. So we'll get to permaculture, because I think a lot of we'll talk about it. I want to hear your thoughts on Trump and how he changed DC, because I think you mentioned this and it got me thinking. I'm like, you really had a good point. Like, it really did open the door, and or more than that, it like pulled the shade up, or like pulled the curtains aside of DC, and everyone's suddenly like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of like evil creatures in there. Like, wow.
So his mistake in rhetoric was that you could drain the swamp, but you can't drain the swamp. But what you can do is dry it up, and you dry it up with sunlight. And I think let's use an analogy, right? Let's say you're running an organization, and not to make any insinuations, but let's say it's a criminal organization, something that you don't want people paying attention to, right?
Sure.
The last thing you want is someone drawing a ton of attention to it. Last thing you want is a WWE Hall of Famer. It could have been anybody. If you ever notice, like, how many times celebrities will say they'll run for president, they never do, right?
Right.
Because that's the last thing that anyone in Congress wants.
Right.
The last thing they ever want you to do is read one of those bills. That's why they make them that's why they make the bills super long. That's why C-SPAN sounds like it's narrated by the guy who does the Grand Pacer test. Like, the bill number 572, we're going to work through. And it's just like, I'm going to fall asleep. They want it to be, it's boring, I think, by design, because if they made it engaging, you'd actually want to pay attention. Yeah. The problem is that, Trump made people want to pay attention. That was probably the cardinal sin.
Yep. People started paying attention. You started paying attention. Everyone's realizing how important it is to be a part of the conversation. It's almost as if these people in charge, like the Pelosi family, like they've been running California for over 40 years. It's like, and that's just one example. Imagine like how deep and, this elitist system has been running on manipulating newspapers. Then now we got the internet coming out, and they're like, oh man, we really need to stem the flow of information on the internet. And what do we see now? It's people are being censored like crazy. I think I deal with it myself, being censored. Like, I'll be honest, I can't believe I'm still on Twitter. Like, what am I still doing on Twitter? I am so spicy on there, and I cannot stand Democrats, and I call them out all the time. but it's people are noticing. We're seeing it.
Yeah, I that's the only explanation I could have for why notice the news just doesn't talk about certain things at all.
Oh yeah, trust me, I notice.
Because there's no way to not make some of these disasters interesting. There's no way. There's no angle to make it boring enough that you want to not pay attention. So
or if it's also they shine lights on specific crimes and stuff to push the narratives, because there's been cops kneeling on the necks of a white guy and getting him killed. I think it's Tony Timpa was his name.
Timpa. That's the one.
It's like where's the media outrage on that? Why aren't people saying like what is the whole point there? Well, no, it's not fitting the narrative, so they're not going to shine a light on that.
And it's obviously pretty much a vaudeville show. It's weird. It's like they have a criminal, like I keep saying criminal, but it's a secret. They're trying to keep something a secret. They got some business dealing. So what they do is they have like they have a big pot with a bunch of gold and a leprechaun just starts dancing. It's like, oh, look at the leprechaun. ignore the other businessman. Like, let's just shoot some fireworks. Okay, shoot some fireworks. You can use that as an analogy for like, oh, let's start another war, or oh, there's another crisis over here, or it's climate change. Like it was.
Just makes me think of yesterday. Go. What were you saying, Project Veritas?
Yeah, Project Veritas pretty much showed that the CNN guys were planning like, okay, what's the next show going to be? Like they've got like if you've ever been like backstage at like a dance show or something you see like the list, like the director has a list of what's going on next. And it's like they got a list of just distractions. And, Julio Rosas has got a great, Twitter feed of just the stuff going on at the border. No one's paying attention to it except for people who. So I made this point to Jack Posobiec a little while ago on Twitter that like, even if you were left wing, and this is what white pills mean, even if you're left wing and you want to know what's going on in your own city, like New York, you almost have to pay attention to right-wing journalists because the rest of them just disappear the story. It's like, I would like to know about this shooting that happened a block away, but it's not on any of the news I watch. So I'm forced to go over to, I don't like this Jack Posobiec guy. He's a Trumper, but I kind of need to know about. And then you got him, right? That's why I'm kind of hopeful.
That's true. I am hopeful too. It's like I'm not going to stop doing my show. I'm going to keep doing my stuff and talking about this, the infrastructure bill. I was going to talk about it tonight. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to start getting into it because I would like to do a segment and I'm not going to start. I don't know if you've looked into it, but what you just said yesterday, what happened yesterday? What was in the news? Cuomo resigns. Everyone's talking about Cuomo resigning. Okay, great. Cuomo resigned, but he's not going to face the charges for the allegations. He's not going to be held accountable for the murders or the nursing home deaths, we'll call it, whatever. He basically murdered these people. But then what happened? The infrastructure passed and it through the Senate, and now everyone's like, well, what about this infrastructure bill? Like, that thing's terrible. They're giving amnesty to 11 million illegal immigrants. It's like, I married a Swedish woman, and I spent thousands of dollars to get her through the immigration process legally, so that she could legally move and live in America. Like, I went through the numbers, it's like, oh, they're just going to give amnesty to these people. And like a whole bunch of them have COVID and they're just pouring over the border too, because Biden said, yeah, come on over, causing issues.
They had t-shirts. Some of them had t-shirts.
Let us in, Biden.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Who makes my gosh, dude, it pretty much, I don't want to like speculate too much, but I could definitely see people behind closed doors just saying, all right, listen, Cuomo, you got some bad stuff going on right here. It's only a matter of time. We really need you to just fall on your sword this week because we got a lot of heat for this bill. But
he didn't even apologize. He said, sorry, I offended you. Like, that's not an apology, dude.
Well, that's the part of the distraction, I think, is because they're trying to make you as angry as possible. It's weird, this like whole manipulate. Also, I'm always suspicious of whenever we get served a victory that seems too easy. Or it's like, oh, it finally gave. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, some victories, like we need to have a good vision of what are the victories that we really need to take back the country. And CRT is one of them. And they will never stop fighting the CRT thing, right? Because it's central to what they want to do. Like taking back school and education is probably the main step to taking back your country. Because that's I'm going to be derogatory a little bit here, but that's the main way that they reproduce. Because they're not doing it the traditional way, right? They indoctrinate,